To begin, we want to go ahead and find the end of our yarn. It might be wrapped around the outside. Sometimes the yarn will be wrapped right in the center, and you kind of have to dig for it a little bit. Mine's right on the outside today. So after you find the end of your yarn, what you want to do is just lay that yarn right out in front of you. What we're going to be doing to begin is a slip knot. There are a ton of different ways to make a slip knot, but this is one of the easiest ways that I'm going to show you. So what you want to do is look at your yarn. The yarn right here that kind of ends, this is your tail. The rest of your yarn attached to your ball or your skein is the working yarn. So everything that's attached to the ball, we're going to call that our working yarn. And then where it just kind of ends, that's our tail. So to make our slip knot, what we want to do is grab the working yarn and just drape it right over the tail. So you want the working yarn on top of the tail. And we made a little loop here. And what we're going to do is put our hand or our fingers underneath the loop, kind of like little alligators. And we're going to reach right over here and grab that tail like this. So when you pull it up, you're going to hold it like this, and you can just pull just like that, and then we've got our slip knot here. After you have done your slip knot, we want to go ahead and insert our hook in that loop, and then tighten the yarn up against your hook. So when you're crocheting, especially when you're first learning, you want to try to make things a little bit looser rather than too tight. If things are too tight when you're crocheting, it's really, really hard to go back into it, which is what we do when we crochet. So basically we make a line, we do some stitches, we work in those same stitches for the next row. And like that might sound a little confusing right now, but it'll start making more and more sense. So try your best to make things a little bit looser rather than too tight. So when you've got your slip knot on your hook right here, you want it to just slide back and forth freely, nice and easy, just like that. Okay? Now we are ready to hold our yarn. So holding the yarn can be a little bit tricky in the beginning, especially if you're new to this and you've never dealt with yarn before. It can be a little finicky when you first start. So I'm going to show you a way to hold your yarn. And what I want you to do is put your non-dominant hand out in front of you just like this. So if you're, left-handed, you're going to put your right hand out. If you're right-handed, your left hand will go out. So you want to put your hand right out in front of you. And we are going to make sure that we have our working yarn. Remember, the working yarn is attached to the ball. You want the working yarn to go through your ring finger and your pinky. Then bring that yarn kind of forward towards you. And now you're going to wrap the yarn around your index finger, just like that. After you do that, use your middle finger and your thumb to hold onto that slip knot. So when we hold onto the slip knot, what we're doing is creating a line of tension right here for our hook to reach over and grab. So what you want is to be able to hold that slip knot and have your hook kind of held still, just like that. See how it's nice and stable. So if you hold it like this, when you hold onto your hook, you can reach over and grab that yarn, and it's just always ready for you. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is create a foundation chain. It's not always called a foundation chain. Sometimes you're going to see it written down as a pattern, just says chain 30 or foundation chain 30. So our pattern today calls for 30 chains, and that's what we're going to do. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do the chains. Make sure you've got your yarn nice and stable here. You've got a nice line of tension going on here, and now we're ready. So what we're going to do to do the chain is you're going to yarn over, And when I say yarn over, it basically just means that that's when we're gonna grab the yarn. So the yarn's gonna go over our hook. We're yarning over. Now we're going to pull that yarn through the loop right here. So we're gonna just pull it down just like that. I've got my first chain. Now, I've noticed that sometimes when people are crocheting, especially in the beginning, sometimes you might want to grab your yarn around like this and pull it through. That is totally fine. Or you can just reach right over like this and then pull it through. Either way is acceptable, it works, it doesn't matter which way you grab it. Whatever feels more comfortable for you, do that one. Try not to go against what's feeling natural, because then it's going to be harder for you to do this portion. So a lot of the times when I'm crocheting and making my chain, I kind of just grab my yarn like this and then pull it down. So we are going to create 30 chains. Okay, so we yarn over, pull through the loop that's on our hook, yarn over, pull through the loop that's on your hook. And we're just going to keep doing that until we have 30 chains. Now I know that this is tricky in the beginning, so try to have some patience with yourself. Try not to rush, just take your time and really get the feel for holding the yarn, holding the hook, and creating the chain. There's no rush, so it's okay if you're going on the slower end, but who knows, maybe you're just flying through it, because everybody does things very differently. I'm going to go ahead and make my 30 chains. We're just going to keep going, and then I'll tell you about the next step. I'm not sure if I have 30 because I did not start counting right away, but that's okay because I'm going to show you how to count your chains. So when you look at your chain, it looks kind of like a braid. So if you look carefully here, you can see it looks kind of like a braid. And we want to count these. So when you look at it, a lot of the times I just recommend laying it out in front of you on a table, because there kind of is a front and a back if you look really closely. So this would be the front, and it just looks like a braid. You can see the little pieces kind of like intertwined over each other like that. It looks like a braid. When you're looking at it, you want to be able to count them. So there's these little bumps on the sides of your chain here. Each little bump on the outside of your chain is what you count. So we look here and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Ooh, I was so close. Let's do 2 more chains. 29 and 30. All right. Now, when you're looking at your chain, there is a chance that maybe your chain looks all kinds of different sizes, and that's okay. So if this is your first time ever doing it, it might not look super cohesive like mine, but that is okay. If your chain has some large holes, some large spaces, maybe some of it's really big and loose, maybe some of it's a little bit smaller, it doesn't matter. It's totally fine. The only thing that we don't want is for the chain to be too tight. So if it's just really like just scrunched in on itself, I do recommend starting over and trying to make it a little bit looser. The reason why is because from now on, we are going to work into that chain. So we're actually going to be inserting our hook into the chain, just like that. So if you feel like you can't just easily slide your hook into the chains that you have, definitely redo it so that it's a little bit looser, and you just basically want to be able to slide it in nice and easy, just the way that I'm doing now. So if you are wanting to put your hook into your chain, just make sure it slides in nice and easy, just like this. And if you're struggling a bit, I would redo it. Okay, so now if you look at the pattern, it says that we are on row 1 now. We did our foundation chain of 30. Now we're on row 1, and it says second chain from the hook, single crochet all the way across, and then we're going to turn our work. So now we get to learn the single crochets. Single crochets are the most basic stitches, but you can make literally anything out of them. You can make sweaters, hats, scarves, stuffed animals, dishcloths, anything that you want. So they are basic, but you can make anything you want out of them. All right, let's learn the single crochets. So when you're looking at your chain, it says that we want to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So when I'm looking at my hook right here, there's a line of yarn that's attached to my hook, and this line of yarn goes through a chain. That is your first chain on the hook. So we don't want to go in that one. We want to go into the next one. So we're going to go into this one right here. So the next chain, the second chain. So we are going to go ahead and insert our hook here. After you do that, you can see that we now have 2 loops on our hook. If you have 2 loops, you are now ready to yarn over. So remember, that's just when you grab the yarn, and we're going to pull this yarn through that first loop that's on our hook. We're going to pull it through like that. All right, we have 2 loops on our hook again. So now we're going to yarn over and pull through both of these loops. So we're going to yarn over and then pull through those loops like that. That is a single crochet. And I will do that multiple times until I feel like it's enough for you to be able to get it. So now if you look at your chain here, you can tell that I've gone into this one right here because there's a little bit of a gap. There's a little hole that has appeared. So that hole means we've done that one already. Now we want to go to the next one. So this right here that's nice and closed up, right here. That's where we're going next. Insert your hook right in there. Okay. We now have 2 loops on our hook again. We are going to yarn over. Now, as we're yarning over, be mindful about where your fingers are. Your middle finger and thumb, you want them to be holding on to the chain right below your hook. See where I have my fingers right here? That's where I would like you to put yours too. So we're going to yarn over, pull through the first loop that's on your hook. Just like that. Okay. Now, if you look, I kind of like wiggled my hook, and that opens up a little bit of space. And if you see, I have now, like my hands are now right below these loops. That is going to give me control for when I yarn over and pull through both of these loops. So I'd like you to try to put your fingers on your chain and your stitches, right where, like just exactly where mine are. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through both of the loops. Now, as I pull through these loops, I use my middle finger and my thumb to pull the yarn away from my hook. So it would be like this if I wasn't, and then I grab it and I pull it away from the hook. Pulling the yarn away from the hook, these loops, will help the yarn over go through the loops, just like that. All right, so now we look at this. You can tell where I've gone into that chain previously. There's a nice large hole right here. That means I'm ready to go to the next chain, which is right here, right next to it. So we're going to insert our hook right there, yarn over, and pull through that first loop. So I always have my fingers right below the loop that I'm pulling my yarn through. It really helps with having control and just making sure that you're not accidentally going to drop something. All right, we have 2 loops on our hook now. We're going to yarn over again and pull through both of those loops, just like that. And we're going to continue this all the way across the chain. So we're going to do a single crochet in every single chain that we created. Insert your hook to the next chain, yarn over, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, just like that. All right, now we're going to insert our hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull through that first loop, just like that, yarn over, pull through both loops. And we are just going to keep doing the same thing. So now we're going to insert our hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. So you may realize that sometimes when you want to yarn over, that sometimes you want to go in one direction and sometimes you want to go in the opposite direction, and that is okay. It's totally fine. You will still get the exact same outcome for your stitches. Try to just do what's coming more naturally. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to insert my hook into that next chain. Now, when I yarn over right now, I automatically feel like grabbing my yarn from this way is going to be the easiest. But if I wanted to, I could reach around and grab it this way and then pull it through. So whichever direction is feeling more natural for you, do that one. Do what makes it feel easier for you. I don't want you to struggle. And crocheting is just, it's really a forgiving craft. It can be a little bit intimidating in the beginning, but it's very forgiving. And a lot of the times you can hide your mistakes, which I love. But yeah, it doesn't matter which direction you're yarning over, you're still going to get the exact same outcome. All right, let's do a couple more of these single crochets together. We're going to insert our hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, now we're going to insert our hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull through that first loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and let's do one more single crochet together. Go ahead and insert your hook right here. So it looks something like this. Yarn over, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. All right, I'm going to go ahead and keep doing that. I want you to go ahead and keep doing your single crochets until you get to the very end. So right where your slip knot is, we will be putting a single crochet right next to it. So keep that in mind when you get to the end of your chain. I'll meet you back there in just a minute.